Hey, everybody. Thanks so much for joining Scar Stories. My name is Nicole Golden. I'm the host. And I am so excited to have a very special guest today. This is my father-in-law, Dale Golden, the Reverend Dale Golden. And we are going to talk a little bit today about grief. So my goal is to make Dad cry. I'm just joking. I'll probably end up crying. We'll both end up crying. Who even knows? But as we're coming into the holidays, I've been seeing a lot of different posts on Facebook and Instagram, and just some different people reaching out to me, asking questions about grief and how to walk through the holidays with grief. And so I thought this would be kind of a fun interview to do. And Brian encouraged me to do it too. He's like, you need to interview Dad. So I was like, okay, everybody loves you, Dad. So anyways, so I read these questions to Brian and he was like, whoa, those are intense. So this may be a shorter Scar Stories. We'll see, just because I wasn't pulling any punches with Dad. But now, Dad, you've been in the ministry for 40 plus years, right?
Correct.
Okay, that's nuts.
Yes.
And you and Mom celebrated, because I still consider it celebrating, 53 years last year.
Yeah.
Right? Okay.
Yes.
And let's see, how many years ago did Chris pass?
It was 1995.
Okay.
And so you've
Whatever
got
that
25
is.
years.
25 years. Okay. I'm terrible at simple math. So for those of you that don't know, Chris is Dad's oldest son. That's Brian's oldest brother. So they have Chris, Angie, Terry, Brian, and Heather. And Chris passed away in a freak accident. I mean, completely freak accident. Do you want to explain how he passed real quickly?
Well, he was the kind of an operations manager for a pressure washing and company. He was in business together with Tom Pittenger, a gentleman in our church. And he had gone to check out a job. They were up at GTE at the time, I think it was.
Yeah.
And we don't know exactly really what happened, other than he had gone up on the roof to check the worker that they had there doing their windows, and he somehow slipped. It was kind of a gravel roof, and it was probably had some mildew and stuff, and it was slippery, and he fell backwards off that roof. It was only one story, but he hit the concrete. There was a door, and so there was a concrete pad, and he fell back. And though they medevaced him to Tampa General, he never regained consciousness.
Yeah. And I Brian explains, like, you guys made the decision to, turn off the machines and stuff because you got several opinions and there was no brain activity. There was nothing going on. So, so just a completely freak accident. And what's so crazy is that happened on August 12th, and then his birthday is the 24th. Okay. Yeah. So literally like just about 2 weeks before his birthday. And I think he was going to be 27, right? Or 28.
28, I think he would have been.
Okay. The kind of crazy thing about this full circle is that we got Braxton's induction date, which was going to be August 12th. I forgot what that date was. And Bryant called me and was like, do you know what that date is? And I was like, no. And he was like, that's actually the day that Chris passed. And so I contacted the entire family and I was like, are you guys okay with me moving forward with this, or should I change the date? Everybody to a person was excited about it. So that's why Braxton's name is Braxton Christopher Dale, because Chris's full name was Christopher Dale Golden. So kind of crazy. So let me ask you, Dad, this then. How did you, because at the time then, let's see, I can't remember how old everybody would have been. Angie would have been in her 20s. I think Terry would have been around his 20s. Bryant was 17, and Heather probably would have been 14.
Somewhere in there.
Yeah, I mean, we're ballparking here. So how did you and Mom manage your grief during that season? Your kids would have been older. So did you grieve a lot with the kids, or did you and Mom grieve more privately, and then you guys help the kids grieve? Like, how did you manage your grief throughout that season? And then how did you help the kids with their grief?
Well, we of course had our private time, we had
Yeah.
a lot of private time and for our grieving. With the kids, we spent a lot of time sharing memories.
Mm.
We didn't want to dwell on the hurt and sorrow. It was there. It was not going to go away.
Yeah.
But a comfort to us, of course, is remembering the good times, remembering those, and reviewing the fact because of our faith in Christ, we knew that this was not the end.
Yeah.
And so you have to kind of constantly remind yourself that Chris was okay.
Yes. Yeah.
You know, I remember, of course, when he was in the hospital, we didn't know what the outcome was going to be.
Yeah.
And he was on life support. And I remember, of course, we had a lot of folks come to the hospital. And I remember going to one of the other floors to a waiting room where there was no one in, and kind of got off to myself. And I remember I pled with God. I'm going to be honest. I really pled with God that he would spare him, that he would heal him. But in the end, God decided to heal him in a different way than what I would have liked. But, Chris is okay. So, so there's comfort in that.
And how did you, because I've talked to a couple of parents who have lost their kids in freak accidents and different ways that they just weren't prepared for. And I know you and Mom were in the room, when he was hooked up to all of the machines and everything like that. How did you replace that image and really because as a parent, you must have felt so helpless. So how did you replace that image with the image of, okay, he's whole, he's healthy, there's nothing I can do, he's safe. And just, you know what I'm saying? I think sometimes when I've talked to parents who have lost kids, it's hard because you're so used to here on earth keeping them safe. And then the thought of them being in a completely different place without you is scary. And just wanting to have the reassurance, like, I know they're in heaven, but are they okay? So how did you manage that tension? Like your last few images of him with having to let go and realize he was okay.
Yeah. You say replace it. There's, you never totally replace the image. I mean, you just, it is there. But what you do, you don't dwell on that image.
Okay.
You dwell on the life. You dwell on, that's why sharing memories is so important, because that puts your focus on living, not the focus on, that tragedy. And so, like I say, and your mind's a crazy thing. Sometimes it wants to go where you don't want it to.
Yeah.
And but the key thing is that you never, when you get an image that is very troubling, you have to continually remind yourself, do not dwell there, do not stay there. You've got to, and I think it's kind of like in Philippians when it talks about when we're not to worry, and Paul talks about, whatever's good, honest, pure, think on these things. And I think that's what we have to do. We got to train our mind to go into a better place.
Yeah, I love that, Dad. So I think one of the things I'd done a lot of after Eric committed suicide, I started following Kay Warren and her in their ministry. Her son committed suicide years ago, and one of the things she talked about was her and Rick really mourning in private because she didn't want her kids to think it was their responsibility to help their parents through their mourning, but it was the parents to help the kids through their mourning. And I thought that was powerful. And when I've talked to Bryant about that season, he said that's really what you and Mom did. Yes, you guys had your private moments, but then when you were present with the kids, you did not put the burden of them having to help you. You guys were present and there helping them through their grief. And I just think that's so powerful. And you said one of the ways to do that is just sharing memories. And I love that. Talk to me a little bit. So we're going to, Chris passed in August, 2 weeks before his birthday. Then Mom passed last year. Crazy enough, September 5th. Case was born on the 4th. Mom passed on the 5th. Yeah. And that was right before your anniversary and the holidays and everything. So talk to us a little bit about walking through all of the first birthdays, the first anniversaries, the first holidays. Last year I remember I came over and I decorated your house for Thanksgiving and Christmas, which is something I always do because for whatever reason, I just love to do that. So I always do that. But I remember you and I had a conversation when I was putting everything on the tree and I was like, are you okay? Are you okay with all of this? And you said, I'm doing it, right now for the grandkids. Like we've got to do it for the grandkids. So are the first couple of years, is that kind of what it is? It's you're muscling through it for the people who need you. Are you able to enjoy the holidays, or what are the firsts like for you?
Yeah, of course, I had a lot of firsts right after
Yeah, mom.
after mom died. Yeah,
I know she could have picked a better time. She really could have.
yeah. Yeah, we don't schedule those things, do we?
No.
Yeah, it's I don't. That's a tough one because when you're in grieving, certainly every day is grieving. I found that it was good, even though I would have rather, I just didn't feel like putting up a tree.
Yeah.
I didn't feel like doing any of those things. And I know I needed to do it for the grandkids, but I think it was good for me too.
Yeah.
Because one thing, you just, if you get out of the norm, if I would not have done that, I think all the reminders around me would just keep reminding me that, of the grief even more. So,
Yeah.
We have to, we do have to continue to go on. And I think it's good not to change things too much, because you begin to, I don't know, just be self-absorbed about your grief, and that can be a little overwhelming, I think.
Yeah, yeah. I love that. And I know you talked, and I haven't talked to you too much about this in regards to mom. I know with Chris, you said the first year you and mom said you were just kind of numb. It was like you were almost in a haze. Have you felt that way with mom's death, or it's a completely different thing to lose a child and then a spouse, I would guess. I've not experienced that yet, but
yeah, and it's hard to make comparisons.
Because of Corona?
Yeah. Well, now with one thing I will say, it is very difficult, anybody losing a child, because you're not supposed to, you're supposed to outlive your kids, but
yeah.
It is hard. That's an understatement. But one thing that was different, I had mom and I were able to do it together.
Yes.
We supported each other. When I was weak, she kind of lifted me up. She was weak, I helped lift her up.
Yeah.
And so that helped. And I guess now this has been a little different, and I know I've had family support and everything else.
Well, no, yeah, you don't need.
But there's a lot of time when you're alone, and
yeah. Yeah. And especially when, for those who don't know, mom passed away from Alzheimer's, and the last about year or so, you were constantly taking care of her 24/7 and different care facilities and hospitals and things like that too. So to go from caring for her 24/7 to a screeching halt, and not having your best friend of 53 years and everything, and I already got dad to cry, so 1 point for me. But anyway, I know. We got to keep it light, though. This is what I read the questions to Brian. He was like, whoo, those are going to be good, but that's going to be a lot. Dad's going to need a stiff drink after this. And by stiff drink, I need a caffeinated beverage.
There you go. Coffee.
Okay, so I do remember I last Thanksgiving, we had a really sweet time. I know all of us, we always do the prayer of Thanksgiving right before we read Psalm 100, I think it is, right? Is that what we read before Thanksgiving? I get all the holidays confused.
Before the dinner, we always do.
Yes.
Yeah, Psalm 100.
Yes, and I know you had a little bit of trouble getting through that. I think Bryant had to do it. So I think we all had a moment where we all kind of fell apart initially. But then we got into dinner and we had a great time. And it was same with Christmas. You know, I think initially getting there and realizing a big part of our family was not present, you know, but you just have to face it. You just have to, I think, I guess my question would be like, so for people who are going to be having holidays without their loved ones there for the first time, you know, or maybe it's kind of fresh still like it is for us, would you talk about the importance of, I think pretending like it doesn't hurt is not the answer. I think like accepting like, dang, this sucks. You know, you wouldn't say it that way, but talk to a little bit about, you know, the initial feelings of being overwhelmed, because I bet last Thanksgiving in the beginning you were overwhelmed, the initial feelings of being overwhelmed, but then kind of processing through that to be able to be in the moment with the family. How would you talk someone through that process?
Well, one thing, grieving and joy can coexist.
Good, Dad.
You have moments. I mean, our emotions are up and down, and but it doesn't mean that when you have a period of joy that you're faking it.
Yeah.
You feel that with your family, and but it's okay. It's okay to grieve. It's just that we don't, as the scripture says, we don't grieve like those who have no hope. And I often tell folks, you know, if you didn't feel the hurt, if you didn't feel the loss, the pain, you could not experience the love either.
Yep. I've heard you say that over and over.
Necessary emotion. They go together.
Yeah.
So, but that's why, you know, it's okay. You have your moments. I still have my moments.
Yeah.
And I know I used to say that, you know, after Chris died, our emotions are taken to a level that we've never experienced before.
Yeah.
And so then your emotions become more sensitive. Now after Mom died, I didn't know. I always thought there was emotions taken to a level that couldn't go any further, but it does. Now
and deeper still. Yeah.
Yeah, and now it's strange. I can break down with a stupid commercial. You know.
Yeah.
There's little things that may do it, but that's okay. I mean, you do it. You go on and experience the joy and so forth.
It's funny because I was talking to someone the other day, you know, it was two different experiences of grief for me last year, with Eric dying and then with Mom dying. With Eric, I was more angry, and, you know, everyone was like, is heaven very real to you? And I was like, not with Eric's death, no, because I'm not necessarily pleased. If I could just be honest, I'm not pleased that he's there. Like, I'm not pleased that we're hurting so badly and he's whole and healthy in heaven. So like, heaven doesn't feel very close to me. But then when Mom passed, heaven felt super. It was a completely different thing, because it was almost like in a weird way, like I missed her so much, but I was so thankful that she was whole and okay and safe. And I think too, because we talk about her so much with the kids, and we have so many photos and stuff, so we're always talking about memories. And Bright and I will laugh at something inappropriate, or we'll make a joke or something, and then we'll be like, Mom, did you see that? You know, like we're always like talking to her. Like, it's funny because I used to think people, when they'd say like they could sense someone's presence, that seemed weird to me, but I don't feel that with Mom. Like, I feel like I sense her presence at times, and it's kind of cool. I'm not sure how you feel about that scripturally, but let me have it. But let me ask you this, Dad. I've heard some people talk about, like, when they've lost a loved one, almost feeling guilty for being happy, and like feeling guilty for enjoying good things, and feeling guilty for embracing. So like, if someone lost someone this year, like feeling guilty going into the holidays and enjoying that, or feeling guilty what would you say to that? Like,
God gave us our emotions. God gave us joy, and because He gave us that joy, we can have joy in the middle of even trial. I think it really honors the people that lost, if we can, that we're not just totally wiped out by sorrow. I mean, we doesn't mean we don't excuse the phone.
You're fine. You're fine.
I have it on mute, but those texts keep coming.
You're fine.
But yeah, I just we shouldn't feel guilty. I remember even after after Chris died or after Mom died, we were overcome certainly with sorrow, but there were moments when we were laughing.
Yeah, yeah.
And we should not feel guilty with that. I think that knowing that our loved ones are okay,
Yeah.
they wouldn't want us to wallow
in
sorrow.
Yeah.
It's okay to sorrow, but not to wallow in it to the point it keeps us from experiencing life, experience our grandkids, experience our family. And so
I love that. I love that. So let me ask you this. I was just looking at my questions here. Do you some people like to focus on certain dates, like they always remember, for instance, Chris died, you always remember the 12th, or when Mom died, you always remember the 5th of every month. Do you focus on dates like that? Do you make any big deal about those? Or have you found it's best just to live each day as each day?
Yeah, I'm more that way. And it's, when people remember and when people say something, I mean, that's comforting. You like people to remember, because it's what people don't realize is that, you still experience the loss. It's like, it's kind of almost a dichotomy in the sense that life's all at once speeds up. You turn around and it's another year, but the experience that's still fresh. So it's kind of
that's good, Dad.
Yeah. So in that moment, I think that's why things speed up, because you're stuck kind of in that time frame, and then all once the rest of life keeps going on.
Yeah. Well, and it's kind of unfair too, because literally, like my last two boys, it's kind of hard for us not to focus on those dates, because like Braxton's literally birthday is on the day Chris passed, and then Case's birthday is the day. And it's so funny because I was kind of dreading, and it's hard to explain, but I was dreading Case's first birthday, not because I didn't want to celebrate him, but because I was like, the day after is a reminder that Mom's been gone for a year. And I really struggled with, like, do we have a party? Do we celebrate? Do I get the family together? And I remember talking to Bryant, and then I remember talking to you, and you're both like, yes, absolutely, that's what we do. And I talked to the girls too. And I was, in a way, now I'm part of the family, obviously, but the way you have led, Dad, our family walking through grief has been remarkable, because I think you've modeled, like, yes, we can still laugh. Yes, we can still have joy. Like, let's remember, but we're also not going to, and you've led us so well through that. And that's what Mom would want too. Mom loved to laugh, especially at you. So we make sure to, but, so I think we're honoring, even like what you said, her memory by laughing. But did you experience, so last year I felt this. I was wondering if you felt this. So last year, losing Eric and Mom in the same year, when we were coming around to January 1st, 2020, obviously we didn't know coronavirus is going to happen. We would have braced ourselves more. But there was a side of me that was like extremely excited to enter into a new year, because last year was so difficult. But then there's the other side of me of like, we're entering into a new year where these two people, they've not experienced, it's a new thing. They won't be a part of this year. They were a part of 2019 and all the years before. But Mom and Eric aren't necessarily going to physically be a part of 2020, And I think kind of walking through that, sometimes I tend to overthink, which is, I think Brian gets from you not overthinking, which is helpful, because I was like, babe, does this not seem weird to you? And he's like, no. Did that seem weird to you at all? I mean, I guess he's probably going to watch this and be like, no, it was a little weird to me. You make me seem heartless. Did it seem weird to you at all to enter into a new year? And does it ever?
I'm not as big on moving into December 31st, January 1st.
Yeah.
Okay. We talk about it. Oh, I hope this year's better than last, and that.
Yeah.
I don't know that, I probably didn't think deeply on that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but the thing of it is, I guess I look at things like, yeah, I do hurt, and I will continue to do so.
Yeah.
And I know often I hear people say, I just pray that my hurt will go away. I don't want it totally to go away. I feel that's my that you know that that's my my love for
Yes.
for Chris
Yes.
and for Mom, that because I guess I'm kind of like, well, if I don't hurt anymore, then it's like I don't love. I've kind of lost a little of that love.
Yeah, yeah.
So that's just
But would you say the intensity, because I remember after Eric died, this was before Mom passed, but everyone's like, they would always say like, I would talk openly about the intensity of my pain. They're like, that never goes away. And I used to think like, holy crap, if the intensity of my pain never goes away, I'm not sure how I'm going to survive. And I would say for me, and it's a totally different thing to lose a brother than to lose a spouse. So I'm realizing that, or to lose a child. For me, the intensity has, I don't know if dwindles, like it's not as intense. There are times where it is intense. It's funny because like the most random thing, I remember this past year when Kobe Bryant passed away, I was on the floor in a fetal position weeping. And I'm not even a huge Kobe Bryant fan, but I lost it. And Bryant and I realized like I had kind of been stuffing my emotions towards Eric. And I think because it was such a freak accident, in my subconscious, I was thinking they should have been able to stop that. We should have been able to stop Eric. You know what I'm saying? And so like somehow I lived through their trauma and pain, and I experienced, so the intensity, but it's not, for me, I'm not feeling the intensity of that emotion all the time. It comes in waves. Is that how you feel, or do you?
No, absolutely, absolutely. If you stayed that, if it was that intense all the time, that would be pretty tough to handle.
Yeah.
I mean, you get to the point where you experience life as it is, and you go on and you experience the joys and everything else that's going on. You have moments. You may have moments of intensity, something, but no, it definitely. I hear people say it gets better. It does get better. I mean, it. But you, like I say, you just have your moments.
Yeah. So this will be our last question, and I'm hoping you say the line you always say, and if not, I'll make you say it. But for people who always are struggling, not always, but for people who maybe are struggling with, losing a loved one abruptly, or maybe even watching a loved one suffer for a while and then losing a loved one, and they're struggling a little bit with anger, maybe not even a little bit, a lot of bit of anger towards God of why did he allow this? Why didn't he stop this? And they're really wrestling. And I think sometimes that could be misconstrued. I think sometimes we think we're angry with God and we're angry at the situation. And I wonder I think sometimes, I don't know if you would agree with this. I feel like sometimes it's okay to be angry at a situation. Like it's okay to be angry with the disease of Alzheimer's. It's okay to be angry with suicide. Would you agree? Is it okay to be angry at the situation or no? Is that?
Yeah, of course, it's hard how to describe emotions. Certainly, these things are terrible things, and I guess the way I processed it, even back from Chris, when I started to think, why did this happen? Why me? Why, and then I said, why not?
Yeah, that's what I want. Yeah.
I mean, because tragedy and pain and hurt have been around since the fall. I mean, we're in a sin cursed world, and so it's happened to others. And if we're going to get angry when it happens to us, we should get angry when it happens to someone else. I guess what I did, and I did it with after Chris died. I focused my attention on looking at the attributes of God, in a sense. Okay, God is good. Now, and an attribute is something that is intrinsic to who God is. That's, it's like love. God is love. We are loving.
Yeah.
But, that's not an attribute. But God is loved by his very character because of his holiness.
Yeah.
And he's good and he's kind. And he did not give up any of those attributes when Chris died.
Mm,
And so I have to accept the fact that I don't understand it.
yeah.
It's not what I would have chosen, but if I believe that God is God and that he is who he says he is, it's who, and Bryant often says, when someone walks out of a tomb, I'm going to believe that person. And the fact that Christ came out of the tomb,
Yes.
authenticating everything that was ever said about
Yes.
God. So I believe that. So that helped me. That kept me from getting angry.
Yeah.
Now, did I question why? It's one thing to say why, as in a sense that there's so many unknowns here that I don't understand.
Yes.
And saying, why would you do such a thing?
Mm.
And questioning God's actions. I don't think I questioned God's actions.
Yeah.
And sure, there's some things I may ask why, but I won't know until
Yeah.
I see the Lord.
Yeah.
So,
And it's crazy because I feel like that's how I walked through last year too. I don't think I ever got angry with God. I mean, I think if I'm being honest, I think there were seasons where I could have, if I would have allowed myself, especially with mom. Like that was really difficult for me. Because mom was, next to Bryant, like one of my best friends. I mean, mom, Kevin, my counselor often refers to mom as she was my anchor. She was my anchor is what he would always say for mom about me. And so I felt really untethered when especially last year, she started to digress and I couldn't talk to her and I could talk to her, but it wasn't like it was,
right.
And so I don't know that I ever got angry at God, but yeah, there were seasons where I really did struggle with the whys and trying to understand. And for some of us, so I can tend to overthink, which is why it's such a blessing that I'm married to Bryant. He thinks you have taught him to think very much in the now, and I've overheard you talking to him about this. You guys are you're very much in the moment, which I think is incredible. And so I think some people would try to understand, they get stuck, I think, sometimes trying to understand and trying to figure out why they don't understand. Like, why would mom get Alzheimer's? And why would why would she experience a fall? Or why would she do this? Or why would it happen like this? And they can get caught up in all those whys. So how would you challenge someone because I think sometimes Kevin has explained it this way, our subconscious tries to understand a situation, and then oftentimes we'll try to make us blame ourselves for the situation because that's easier to accept than no, something freak happened or our world is just broken, like you said, the fall in Genesis 3, not the fall, the season. For those who maybe aren't Jesus followers or understand scripture, but when Adam and Eve sinned, I think for some of us, we want to try to break down everything so it's easier to comprehend. Death is just so hard to comprehend. So what would you say to someone who's trying to break it all apart and understand it and answer all the whys?
Well, first of all, I don't want anyone to think that because I processed the situation the way I did not get angry, that if they get angry that there's something wrong.
No, yeah.
Right. We're all wired differently and our backgrounds are different. And even if we get angry with God, God can handle it.
Yes, right? He can. Yeah, I love that, Dad.
So I think we just need to realize that some things, our responses are emotional, and emotions are a little fickle. Emotions can go up and down.
Yeah.
So it just sometimes just allow some time to work out the emotions. And I think once the emotions, begin to come down a little bit, it'll be good to look into, okay, who is God? What, and so forth, and why do things happen? And we don't always know all the whys. We've got to learn. If we know who God is, then we can accept the fact that He knows a little more than we do, and some things that we just have to trust. Yeah, exactly.
And I think what you said, I think is so good. I think for a while last year, and I feel like last year was just like kind of one blow after the other where I didn't get to process. Eric died, then right after that I find out I'm pregnant. Then then mom goes into the hospital basically long term. And then we find out there's problems with my pregnancy. And then, and then it was just one thing after the other. And I feel like I processed it as good as I could, but then I realized, like, going into this year, a lot of times I was afraid to feel the emotion. And so I would stuff it. And then things like Kobe Bryant dying, it's not funny. It's not funny that Kobe died. It's just funny that I'm not even a huge Kobe fan. And then he died, and it literally was like he was a family member for me. Like, it was nuts. And so I think just embracing the emotion and expand that. That's one thing Brian's talked to me a lot about, is like, just feel the emotion, ride the wave, because it'll feel intense, and then you'll get to the other side of it, and you'll have some peace. And so just kind of riding those waves. But I guess the final last question, Dad, and this has been awesome, by the way. I know this has not been easy. I've been seeing you take deep breaths. So I threw this at him kind of last minute, because I wanted to do an interview like this for those who are struggling with loss right before the holidays. I thought this would be super helpful. But what is maybe some closing thoughts, Dad, that you would share with people who have lost a loved one and they're going into the holidays for the first time without this loved one, whether it be they've lost a parent, they've lost a child, they've lost a family member, they've lost a spouse? What maybe is something that you would want to encourage them with?
Yeah, I would encourage them to not sulk, not close in, and as the best they can. Do things as you did before. Don't stop doing the things that you've done.
Yeah.
And don't try to ignore the reminders of the person. I've known people who, they'll take away all the pictures. They'll take, they'll just totally kind of erase the existence. And for me, I think it's good the more you can be exposed to that person's life, the easier it becomes to deal with it, and then experience the joy of the time that we had. And so I guess that would be the thing. And don't try to do it alone. It's important to accept the support of others. I know that my wife and I were in a study group at church, and most of the couples, and of course the group is great, and they wanted me to continue. First I heard, now it's just me, but they insisted that I continue with them in the group. And it was hard at first, but that has been a very supportive group. And I'm still, at this point, I'm still in the group.
Until they kick you out.
They haven't kicked me out. So.
And I'm glad you share that, because they really came around you too during that season. I know we were all, I had just had a baby. Literally, Case was a week old when we went to the funeral, and there was so much going on. And that group really helped with like meals and providing food and helping us clean the house. And they loved on the whole family. It was awesome. And so, just having a support system. And I think you're right. Like, there is going to be a little bit of forcing yourself through doing, you're not going to feel like it. I think that's what we need people to understand. You've got to just choose to do it, though.
That's a major point, I think, because feelings can, if we give in to our feelings, and it, we can give in to wrong feelings. We can give in, and there's a lot of times after you just don't feel like doing anything, going anywhere, being with anybody, but that's not good. You've got, and I have found if you push beyond your feelings, it'll change your feelings. And
that's gold, Dad.
What you didn't think would be a good experience turned out being a good experience.
Yeah. You and Brian are like the same. It makes me so mad because I feel as though I'm a pretty intelligent woman, and like I can say some good stuff, but I have to like really think about it or write it out. But I feel like you and Brian are like walking TED Talks. Like, you guys have these little nuggets that you just throw out of nowhere. And I'm like, why can I not have a brain like that? But then there's other times where you'll completely jumble up things that I say, and it's hilarious. I wish I could think of some examples right now, but I can't. You're lucky. Anyways, Dad, thank you. I know this was not easy, but I know this is going to minister and mean a lot to a lot of people through this season. So, and I know that I was one of your biggest support systems throughout. I'm just joking. I know
Sure.
you've been wanting to thank me through this whole interview. No, I'm just joking. All right, Dad, I love you. Thanks for joining us on Scar Stories. And if you are interested in finding out more about Scar Stories or my website, it's NicoleGolden.org. I've got a prayer journal on there. It's a 7-day prayer journal. You fill in your email, we'll send it to you for free. But there's also several other Scar Stories podcasts on that I think you guys would enjoy. So thanks for joining in, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks, Nicole. Love you.
Love you, Dad.